Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is BryanCPSteele and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. How you doing? Oh, I'm just waiting for a response. Okay, awesome. Glad to hear it. Hope hope your mother's doing well. Um, yeah, so let's get into it. I don't have a whole lot of time today. I got a lot to do. So let's, unlike last week, which where I completely forgot to record a video, so I ended up going live. Let's make sure I get a good video in today. I think it's a good topic. Um, yeah, so the week in Bryan. Personally, I'm down another 2 pounds, so getting better. Officially, started going to the gym and doing actual like exercise gym stuff. I think I've mentioned before how much I hate it. I do like the gym that I'm at. They've got some really cool stuff. Steam room, sauna. That always I it's weird for being a large gentleman. I love being in a sauna. Um, I also love to swim, so the fact that that side of the gym is accessible to me is awesome. Um, but they also have a really cool a darkened cardio theater. Like basically you can go in and use there's all kinds of different cardio machines. But they just play movies. It's like a movie theater that instead of having seats, you've got exercise bikes and treadmills and stairmasters and things. So yeah, no. So I won't say I'm excited to work out. I am glad that I'm being more proactive in making it happen. Um, let's see what else. Yeah, personal life has been kind of normal, you know. I will say something. So my wife and I we watch a lot of movies. I've always been a giant, cinephile, and I go deep into some terrible films. Like I love bad movies a lot. And one of my I won't say one of my favorite slasher movies, but one of the most memorable slasher movies that I remember seeing and not like actually being surprised by how good it was the original Wrong Turn from I think 2003, I think. Um, and Eliza Dushku, it's a great movie about a group of young folk who take a wrong turn into the kind of the backwoods of Appalachia and get hunted down by a creepy redneck cannibal family. Ta-da! There you go. There's your plot. But it's super scary and it's got lots of great jump scares and legitimately like actually scary monsters. The villains in the movie are like legitimately terrifying. It's like The Hills Have Eyes in West Virginia. Well, I thought it was a remake. I knew that they had done. There's been sequels, and their numbers, none of the Wrong Turn sequels are as good as the first one. But then I knew that they had made another Wrong Turn, the actual just straight up, here's no number after it, whatever. But it was in 2020, and I knew that it had been made, but I had never gotten around to watching it. Well, Natalie and I watched it last night, and if it wasn't, if it didn't try to sell itself as a Wrong Turn movie, it probably would have been better. There's been a recent trend in a lot of horror movies where they get really preachy and they try to turn turn what should just be a monster movie into a message movie. And this one fails on that level so it's so heavy-handed and so it's like I'm all for conservation. I'm all for the preservation of traditional ways, but this just hammered it home and constantly. And oh, of course, the bad guys can't actually be bad guys. They've got to, the stupid, the stupid grumpy boyfriend had to be the one that sets everything off. I mean, just it I'm tired of some movies just need to be, like, they need to be just fun to be scared, or fun for horror's sake, or like, if you, I mean, obviously, you don't go to watch a comedy and then find yourself in a slasher movie, or you want it to be fun for the reason that you want it to be fun. Obviously, if you don't like slasher movies, then I would say don't go watch Wrong Turn. If you don't like, puerile sex comedies, don't go watch Not Another Teen Movie. Like, I'm a big believer if it doesn't, trigger the endorphins for you, the serotonin for you, then don't do it. Don't try and shoehorn something into it that's not really there, and don't get mad at other people enjoying it or wanting it a different way because it's not to your sensibilities. I don't know. I could go on all day, but I'm not going to. Just rest assured that if it didn't sell itself as a Wrong Turn movie, and it was just a B grade, backwoods flick, I think it'd be fine. It still would have been super preachy, but whatever. The fact that they're riding on the coattails of the original Wrong Turn, I was super let down. Like really let down. So I think maybe today, after I get done with this, I may actually find the original and rewatch it, just to, give myself I can't believe I'm saying this, give myself a horror palate cleanser, if you will. It's crazy. But yeah, so that's basically been my week on the personal level. Business wise, things are great. We just got the probably the last set of revisions, barring us finding something drastically wrong, to the playtest teams for Warzone Eternal, for the main rules and the first, like, the Kickstarter wave of stat cards. So I know Alex is really really busy trying to get the backer kit up and running. For that way we can get late backers and start processing orders and stuff. But on the actual, like, production of things, I know a lot of you out there are waiting for us to give you those kind of finalized those kind of like finalized intro rules and some scenarios and all that. But I'm really excited for it to be, I'm really excited for it to be done. I'm really excited for it to be out in the wild, and for you guys to see, I mean, you've seen everything that we've shown in the demo games, and if you've come to any conventions that we're at, you've seen us play, you've seen some cards. But I think that when people get the full scope of what we put together, there's going to be a lot of people that are really going to be excited to start putting models on the table. So, and frankly, for me as a developer, I'm excited to get the next round of models into playtest, into the playtest teams. Just to give you a little heads up. So basically, I do the designs for the units. I playtest them myself. I playtest them with my local group. Alex gets his say. We do some tweaking, and all of this happens, well before the regular playtesters ever see a line of stats from them. We want to make sure that they're halfway polished before we send them in for detailing, so to speak. So I'm really excited to get some of these other units in front of the playtest teams. Speaking of Warzone, No, I actually just stopped with that. So I'm going to mention it next week in the pre-Gen Con episode, but it sounds like I'm going to be doing a signing at the Catalyst for Catalyst Game Labs for my Shadowrun books. So that'll be cool. I'll be there for at least a little while at their booth, signing stuff. With I will be bringing my collection of gold Sharpies. Specifically, these were given to me to be able to sign across the stars. The entrance of the Gold Ranger for Essence 20 by the illustrious Matthew from the UK. But they're going to be my autograph pens the whole time. So anybody who wants me to sign anything is going to get it in gold. Unless they bring their own pen and they want it in a specific color, I suppose. Let's see. What else? I think that's it work-wise. I think that's it work-wise. Other than, my day-to-day regular. Being a producer, developer at Evil Genius is turning out to be kind of a cool gig. We already knew it was going to be. But I'm getting to make a lot more decisions on products and plan things and stuff. I'm also getting some writing and designing in, but for the most part, it's a lot of kind of shaping the products and finding out, getting people to create what me and Dave and the team is envisioning. But it's neat. It's cool. I hope to be able to get a little more creative juices flowing with some of the new with some of the upcoming products. Just because I'll always be a designer, no matter what title someone puts on me. I never stop trying to come up with new stuff. So. But as a gig, it's working out really well. I'm very happy, and it should be totally lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? Oh, getting to design stuff and production stuff and things like that. It should be pretty cool going forward, making a lot of new and neat, wonderful things. Wow, my brain just completely derailed there for like a second. Just, painting wise, I finished up some models for some Gen Con display stuff. I want to show you, but I can't because we're revealing them at Gen Con. And then, I haven't even done any work on the BattleTech stuff this week. It's just been painting on Gen Con models, or models for Gen Con, so to speak. Gaming wise. Besides video games, I really haven't done much in the way of gaming, and that's just because it's a couple weeks before Gen Con. I am going to get to play D&D tomorrow night, which is cool. But it is, or I guess for when this video comes out tonight. And then that's actually going to be probably the last gaming session that I've got before Gen Con, because the week before a convention is always kind of, hustle bustle, get everything ready, try and cross off as many things that you can right before you leave, because I'm going to be gone for, almost a week. So, that was all around, it's been a good week in Bryan. And I'm glad to have taken the time to remember to record my video. Next week's video is going to be the kind of pre-Gen Con, chit chat. Let you know kind of what I'll be doing at Gen Con, where I'm going to be at. I'm going to go through my schedule, because it should be finalized by then. There's a few things that are still kind of up in the air. I know I'm doing a couple of signings. I know that I'm doing an interview, but I don't know. I don't know when. Some of that stuff's still kind of being figured out based off of my collective schedule. I do know, and I'll discuss more about it next week. I do know that most of the time, if you're at Gen Con and you try to find me, I will actually be in the hotel neighboring to the convention center. Like I said, I'll go into specifics next week to let you know kind of the room numbers and things like that. But I'm going to be kind of the staff on hand for a lot of the day shifts over at our auxiliary room. But yeah, so it should be fun. Should be fun. Yeah, so speaking of, segue, speaking of Gen Con, convention season. It's come up on topic a couple of times, and I've watched a lot of gaming streams and listened to a lot of people. I've been part of a lot of gaming streams and Twitch games and stuff. That there's a lot of people that will talk and mention stuff about having a good time or a bad time or a good experience or a bad experience. And I know at Evil Genius we actually have like, not scorecards, but like progress reports. No, what is it? Evaluations. We have GM evaluation cards we give to our players, that you basically get to tell us as staff and technically the GM what you thought about the session, what you thought, any notes, and it's a way for us to make sure that we can kind of hone in our GM process and the actual convention adventures themselves, just collectively, a good a good all around feedback system. And one of the things that in a conversation I was having with a coworker, what began as kind of a joke was, I wish we could have a feedback system on the players. And obviously that can't be the case. They're paying to be there and whatnot. But I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take an episode and spend about half an hour talking about what as someone who's been in a lot of convention adventures, been in a lot of one-shots, ran a lot of one-shots, ran a lot of convention adventures, and been on, camera playing games, that basically kind of highlight the things that I think make for a really good random event player. Now that sounds really weird. I know that I've done episodes in the past about what it takes to run a good one-shot, what it takes to be a good DM for a one-shot or a convention game. I want to talk more about what it takes to be a good player at a convention game. And unlike before, I didn't write down the rules. I didn't write down the things. We're just gonna have a conversation. And the first and foremost, above all other things, is remember that everyone there, even if they're working, everyone there is trying to have a good time. Nobody is going to these events to suffer. Nobody is going to these events because they hate games. They're there to experience and have a good time gaming. Whether it's they're running it, whether they're playing it, whether they're running the camera for a media site. Everybody's there to have a good time in their own way. So you need to be conscious of that. You need to pay attention to some of the body language around the table. If there's a player that's sitting there on their phone, just not doing anything. Someone who every time they try to speak up, they get cut off. Like maybe that's that soft-spoken person at the table. She keeps trying to get involved, but then a more dominant personality across the table steps all over them, and they might not even be doing it intentional. But if you see something like that, help out the lower voice. Basically, go, hey, we were about ready to say something. What but you add your voice to theirs to amplify what they're saying. So one of those. I'm not saying like take what they said and say it for them. I'm saying use your voice, use your presence to find out what they were going to say. Give them that spotlight. And especially if the person the person who's kind of dominating the language is someone, or the dominating the situation is someone or a friend of yours, maybe politely be like, hey, hold up a second, Aloysius had something to add. Let's find out what's up. And I think that's a big thing, is try and find everybody's fun level. Now, that being said, there could be someone who their fun at the thing is sitting there playing around on their phone, and oh, combat? Okay, I'll roll some dice. If that's the case, if they're having a good time, yeah, maybe they're not engaging as much as you'd like on a role playing level or something like that, but they're getting out of it what they want to get out of it. They're not being disruptive. They're not stopping someone else from having a good time. Then who's to say, as long as it's not being distracting, like they're not like watching a video. For instance, one of my best friends in the whole wide world is just an absolute techno addict. His phone is never 6 inches from his fingers. If he sits idle for more than 5 minutes, hell, more than 3 minutes, he is on his phone and he is screwing around. The other day, we were playing something, and there was a momentary pause in the conversation, and he picked up his phone, and it just started playing a video. And rather than being like most people would go, ooh, sorry, rather than stopping, he just zoned in and just kept watching. And I kind of was like, dude, what are you doing? And he was like, oh yeah, sorry, video started playing. It was one of those things where it's like, well then turn it off, be part of the game. That's where, yes, his fun is not dependent on him not having a phone in his hands, but it was getting in the way of other people's fun, namely in that case my own, because I'm sitting here trying to listen to the conversation and be part of the game, and there's a video game review of Starfield or whatever. That's the number one rule, more than anything else, is just facilitate others' fun and find out what that takes and benefit from it, or try to benefit from it. I think another good tip for a convention adventure, or a convention adventurer, if you will, is to be flexible. Yes, the GM is running an event, and yes, they should know all the rules, and they should know all the ins and outs of the convention adventure that they're running. But sometimes, you might not know this, but sometimes GMs cancel. Sometimes a volunteer doesn't show up to a convention, and that event, they would, the company would rather, or whoever's putting this thing on, would rather put someone in there that's a capable GM, maybe not necessarily for that game line, maybe not necessarily for that adventure. Maybe they might not know that adventure, whatever the case may be, rather than canceling the event and therefore, chewing a hole in your day. Is they would rather have someone run it and hopefully keep up with a well-written adventure, so forth and so on. So always realize that game master is he might make mistakes, or they might make mistakes. They might they might get their wires crossed in different editions of the game, or this skill is different in this rule set, or this adventure has you use investigation instead of perception to find traps, or whatever. And rather than fighting them on it, rather than making a big stink of that's not what the rules say, is just be flexible. Again, all goes down to rule number one. It all goes down to the golden rule of everybody trying to have fun. And that includes the GM. The last thing you want is for your GM to be stressed out and grumpy and dealing with a bunch of problem players that tell me what to do. And no, you want them to have a good time too. You want them to be laughing and throwing their dice and enjoying enjoying the story that's being created and played through as much as you are. Just because they're probably being paid to be there doesn't mean they're any less of a gamer and playing in that game, even though they are not playing as a character. They're playing as the rest of the characters, in fact. So yeah, I think that's a big thing, is be flexible and be understanding of your GM. Now, as I mentioned in the far earlier episode about GMing a convention adventure, you hope that they are going to be flexible as well. Is that, players make mistakes. It happens. Sometimes they read a sheet wrong, or they, you roll the wrong kind of die, or they think something runs a certain way and then it runs a different way. Whatever the case may be, is, everybody's got, and this also goes for players with other players. If you're sitting down at a team of, you're sitting down at a table of 5 people, and you don't know anybody. You are an absolute stranger. You randomly wanted to play this game. You sat down and was like, all right, cool, show me what's up. And half the people at that table are veterans of the game system. They all know what's going on. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be like, hey, I've never played this system before. Bear with me. Or if it goes both ways. You sit down and like someone is maybe a particularly young player that hasn't gotten a lot of experience under their belt, or maybe it's their first time at a gaming convention. The last thing you want to do is send them away from this table feeling like, God, I never want to role play again, because man, role players are dicks. So that's again, I can't express it enough. It all comes back down to the golden rule, and the golden rule is everybody's there to have fun. Don't get in the way of that. Sometimes arguments happen. Sometimes opinions will differ. And I think the big thing there is, don't try and hurt feelings. Don't like, you don't want someone walking away from the table basically being like, I never want to play with that guy again, or I never want to find a person like that guy again. Especially if you happen to be playing with some, maybe a couple of people that joined the session. They might be used to your shenanigans or your particular social quirks and quips, but an absolute stranger is not. And even if they are, forgiving and they roll with the punches and they go, oh, okay, you're just this, this is just how you are. Everybody has limits. Everybody has the, all right, let's cut it out. You're kind of making me mad. You're wasting everybody's time. Let's stay focused. There's only so much time in the game. I want to see the end of the adventure, so forth and so on. It's generally just a good idea to go in, rather than going in at 110% of being like, I am 100% gamer. I'm gonna, extreme, is go in with the goal of giving it your best, play the character to the best of your ability, enjoy the game, solve the puzzles, defeat the monsters, whatever. But don't be afraid to pull it back a bit, rein it in a little bit, to help the other members of the table have as good of a time as you. Especially if you are a gamer that has been playing for a million years and you know all the monsters. And the last thing if you sit down to play a D&D game, the last thing some new player, or that new player might find it might be their like the thing that they go home and tell all of their friends about and get them into gaming, about the time that they fought this creature, and no matter what we did, it just wasn't dying. It didn't go down. It kept regenerating. That's a cool story for them to go back and tell their friends. Not the, oh yeah, we went and killed a troll, and one of the guys let us know to use fire, and so we killed it pretty quick. People don't remember the easy things. People remember the times that they are challenged, the times that they overcome those challenges. And even if you know let's say that you get into a game and you've been playing a long time, so you recognize a lot of traps, you recognize a lot of puzzles, you recognize a lot of instances, or maybe even the meta of a particular monster, the metadata of that monster. Keep it to yourself, or hold it in the back pocket until it's obviously necessary. And even then, maybe ask your GM, hey, can I make like a nature check? Can I do a lore check or whatever to see if I remember anything about this critter? Or, okay, can I get a perception test? Because I'm pretty sure that wall over there is trapped. It's the... Yeah, I mean, and a good author and a good GM won't let you necessarily pen them in. They'll change things on the fly. They'll adapt. They'll make things more difficult for someone who is the know-it-all kind of thing. But no, regardless to any of that, even if you're having a GM that is just running it by the numbers straight out of the book, you can make things a little cooler and a little better for everybody, including yourself, by not being the I'm going to kill every monster. I'm going to know everything about everything. Let's take 20 minutes out of the game so I can tell you the history of the thing that we're playing in because I was part of it or because I've played this before. It's all about social cues. It's all about, sharing the fun at the table. And if someone, this is not to say that when you're sharing the fun, you parcel it out, so to speak. If somebody only really enjoys the game for combat, then fine. You don't need to constantly ask them something during the role playing part of the sessions. What do you think? What do you think? Especially if you know that the answer they're going to give is, well, whatever you guys want to do, or yeah, that sounds good. Maybe once in a while, just to keep make sure that they know they're still playing the game. But if that's not their thing, if that's not what they're all about, if they are not keyed into that aspect of the game, everyone would like people to evolve as gamers. But if they're having, I hate selling a broken record, but and for those of you who are young, a record is no kidding. The last thing you want to do is tell someone else how to have fun. You just want to try and facilitate them to do so, if you can, without it infringing on someone else's. Let's see. I harped a lot about player interaction and things. This goes without saying, but there are a lot of people out there, I hate to say it, that they want to have the validation of doing cool things and being propped up, but don't cheat. Just don't. If your die comes up a 3, tell everybody it comes up a 3. If you're rolling your dice and you're absent-mindedly rolling a dice and it comes up a 20, don't sit there and hold it off and then when the next time you do something be like, oh, I got a 20. It's not, I mean, yes, it's cheating and it's not okay anyway, but it also, some of the best things, some of the best moments come from failure. They come from the things you remember the most are when yes, the eventual victory, the eventual overcoming the antagonist. Yes, that's a big deal. But the little things along the way is you don't often go, You know, it was so cool when we found those bandits and slaughtered them all. That was like my favorite part, is we just, murdered these bad guys. But if that scene went differently, and it was, we totally got captured by bandits and taken back to their bandit camp, and we had to escape. We had to escape captivity and deal with them before we could get back into the adventure. All because I stepped on a twig, and they heard us coming or whatever. That's a story that someone's going to remember. Anything can be made epic, but memorable often starts with some kind of flaw or foible. Something that you tried, and it just wasn't quite enough. You had that tragic moment. Even if it's not that big of a tragedy, it's probably something that's going to stick in your head. There's a reason why the old cliche is, we learn from our mistakes. And that's because we remember our mistakes. We generally do not remember every single success at every little positive moment, only the big ones. But we remember a lot of our failures, and we hold that in our brain on purpose because we don't want to do it again. And it's no different for role playing. There's no difference in the fact that, if you go to attempt something and you fail miserably, yes, you can be upset in the moment and be like, oh God, yeah, I wish that wasn't the case. But, it could turn out to be a really cool moment, a really cool, thing. And I encourage GMs to lean into the concept of making failures, rather than just making failures here's a penalty, work it into the story, work it into the moment, come up with a cool narrative, and as a player, don't be like upset that you failed, even if it was like a critical moment, like it was a big deal. Still do it, still try. There's always a chance. Don't have your character jump off a cliff if you can't fly, unless you hope to land on a pterodactyl or something. But like, these are the things that you're going to remember. These are the things that other players are going to remember too, because that is one of the things that I've always said is I love the idea of doing something at the table, having a cool interaction at the table, or something like that, that this complete stranger that I've been playing with will take that part of the story, go home to their gaming group, go home to their local game store, go home to their family, and be like, I have to tell you what this dude did at our table. It was so crazy. Like, it is passing. It's the role playing folk stories around the campfire. We've all done it. Anybody who's role played a lot, is you've sat around with other role players and you've told old war stories, effectively, where you've been like, oh my God, remember that time? Or I had a character that did this thing, or, it's because we've had such a great time doing this and creating these stories and creating these moments. We always try to kind of recall them and recall that feeling. And it's no different than a sports fan remembering the time that their team won, or, if they're a sports player, the time that, they made it all the way through the playoffs, or something like that. It's we all have the things that give us that joy, that spark that feeling inside, and we hold on to that and we try and share it with others. It's human condition. It's what we do. And I think convention games are a great place for that to happen, especially if you are playing at a table full of strangers. Yes, if you are a shy person, or if you aren't necessarily very socially active, that can be a little intimidating. But it also can be a little freeing, is sitting at a table full of a bunch of people that you don't know now, might not know later. Yeah, you might be making friends, so forth, but it's not set in stone. You very well could just be, spending 4 hours with these people, having a good time, and then you go your separate ways, which means you have no fear of their judgment. You can be you. You can do you. You can say the things you want to say, because at the end of the day, their opinions don't matter. They're personal opinions. Obviously, we want to have everybody have a good time. You don't want to like sit at the table and be like, "You're a jerk. You're a jerk. I hate your face." But you can maybe flex some of those creative muscles. You can do maybe if you maybe you've always wanted to try and do a special voice or an accent for one of your characters, but in your home game you see these people every day and it's a little embarrassing for you to maybe try a voice out and it doesn't work. At a convention game, it's a perfect opportunity for you to give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, it's fine. You look at these people and go, oof, all right, I tried it, yuck. But if it does work out, it gives you that little bit of confidence. It gives you that little bit of information about this new skill that you can then hone and bring back to your gamers at home. A lot of convention adventures. This is a relatively new thing. Relatively, like in the last 10 years. I'm old. Where a lot of convention adventures, they come with pre-generated characters. You do not bring your own character to the game, which sometimes has a little bit of a learning curve, because you might get a character that has a skill or a feat or a power or a talent or whatever that is not something that you've used before, so you might need to become familiarized with it. But there's far fewer games out there now, convention games, where they want you to bring your own character, except if you're like enrolled in like the Adventure League or something. And when you're handed these pre-gens, there's probably at least somewhere on the sheet some kind of cues as to what kind of what's the background, what's their general like spiel of the character. Like, what do they do? Who are they? And sometimes there's none of that, and you get to make it all up, which is cool. But if it is there, it gives you some guides and tips as to how you want to roleplay the character. Maybe give a few minutes to look it over, find a couple of weaknesses, things that you specifically go, okay, ooh, I should probably avoid this, or man, I'm really not good in close combat. You want to know the character at least a little bit going in, but it's not, you should expect it to be a normal character. Very rarely is it going to be someone who's good at everything. It's not going to be a min-maxer's dream. It's going to be a character that was designed and written to help play fairly at a table full of other characters designed to play together and fairly in this particular adventure, or this particular convention scenario. And what that does for you is it means you can probably, I say this because I've been at games that are not quite set up that way, where all the pre-gens are roughly the same power level. They're roughly the same like set of resources. You can basically trust that everybody at the table is roughly bringing the same amount of oomph to the game, probably in different ways to make a more cohesive group. The reason for that, or the reason why that's important anyway, is that means that it comes down, a lot of it's going to come down to how the characters are used, how strong of a role player someone is, how well they, get in, kind of find themselves in the skin of this pre-generated character. I have got a mustache hair that is keep going right up my nose. But it's a chance. It's also a chance for you to maybe, spread your wings a little bit. One of my close friends in D&D, for the most part, always plays a rogue and almost always plays a halfling. Like, it's just D&D, halfling rogue, halfling rogue, halfling rogue. Like 90% of his characters have been halfling rogues. So when he goes to a convention game, yes, it would be very easy for him to go to look at the pre-generated characters and find a rogue, hopefully a halfling, and just immediately fit in and know exactly what he's doing and know all of his powers and all this stuff. Or he could take the time to go ahead and go, you know what? I'm going to go the exact opposite. I'm going to take the Minotaur Barbarian. It gives you that chance because, yes, you're only going to play them for a few hours. You're going to have a good time. If they live, they live. If they die, they die. It doesn't matter. You're just enjoying the session. You're enjoying the story. You're here to be part of a momentary team. And it is sometimes really refreshing to break out of the mold or break out of the cage that you've kind of set yourself up in and try new stuff. Who knows? This is going to sound like a parent talking to a child, but who knows? Try something new. You might like it. Let's say that particular friend, the one that only plays halfling rogues, tries out this Minotaur Barbarian and has a blast with him. Because of that, there's that seed planted that maybe the next time he plays with his at-home groups, he plays with with more regularity, that he goes ahead and goes, you know what, I'm going to try Minotaur Barbarian. Or maybe he mixes the two things and goes, I'm going to try Minotaur Rogue. Or Halfling Barbarian. I don't know. It lets you flex your creative muscles and try new things where there is no real stake at hand. There's whether if your guys' convention adventure, if you guys lose miserably, but you still had a good time, you've won that event. You've done what you're supposed to do, and hopefully the GM can then let you know. All right, so here's some of the things that could have happened. They fill you in, or maybe you ask them not to because you saw that this adventure was being run again. And you're like, I really want to see the end of it, and maybe I want to try a different character this time, or something. Which brings me to another, and I don't want to say final, maybe depending on the time, another facet of being a good player at a convention adventure. And it kind of falls in line with Don't Cheat, but it's mostly metagaming related. So metagaming, for the people who don't know, is using information that you as a player know, but your character that you're portraying does not, and your character acting on it. Most notably, like the biggest thing, probably the two biggest things of metagaming that happens are, as a player, you learn that someone has done something, or you realize that you rolled a 1 on your perception check. Hey, can I look too? Because obviously he failed. That's the big one. One of the other, hang on, I have just got face itches apparently. One of the other big ones though is it's more based off of like players that have been playing a long time, but it's the monster metagame. It's the, we're fighting an ice troll. I know exactly how to beat it. Blah 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 blah. Oh, we're fighting this undead. Don't anyone use your spears. The piercing damage doesn't hurt them. That's a metagaming instance where sometimes, as a GM, it doesn't matter, especially in a short-term one-shot game. Whatever, let the guy have his soapbox, unless it's going to like completely break your encounter, or like like the half of the benefit of the encounter was to figure out something that he just goes, oh, it's this. But there is a big third one for convention events, a big third metagame that can be truly devastating to everybody's fun at the table, because you end up ruining it. Spoilers. Is playing the same adventure twice, or more than twice, or specifically going to play an adventure that maybe you've run before for your home games. Basically, any situation where you have a set of secrets that players are not supposed to know or not be aware of yet, and you bring that knowledge to the table, you need to either throw that out of your head, and when it comes to an important puzzle or an important trick or an ambush, you get silent and realize that if you solve the riddle, if you go, oh, the answer is blue cheese, or whatever, you're taking the opportunity for everyone else at that table to figure it out. You're basically going, oh, I already know the answer. If that's the case, you shut your trap, you step aside, and you let the others figure it out. You let the others come to their conclusions and have that same feeling that you had when you figured it out. That's a big one. Is if you know the outcome of something, if you know how it's going to go, then let the other people at the table figure it out for themselves, because you want them to have that awesome feeling of succeeding, not having it handed to them, because that's what it'll feel like. You're like, oh, well, I already played this adventure. It's the door on the left. And then also, game masters out there, if you're running a convention event and someone ever says that at your table, you change it up immediately. You change it up detrimentally to the situation, and point out the fact that as a GM, there have been some alterations made to the adventure, and just that statement should be enough to let that player know, okay, hey, all right, some things have changed. Like, it's not exactly like I thought it was. And so maybe they'll start trying to figure things out with everybody else rather than just playing know-it-all, or not even know-it-all like I'm learned, but know-it-all as in I got the Cliff's Notes because I played this already. That's a big thing. But again, I think more than anything, and of course, be helpful. Try and get into your character as much as you can. Help others with rules and things if the GM is busy, but don't step on the GM's toes. If they're running it a particular way, you let them run it a particular way. You might disagree with it, but the good news of that is it's one session. When this is over, you don't have to adapt that house rule. You don't have to play that way, with your home games or your other games. It's just for this one thing. So you get through it. Everybody has a good time. Which is, by the way, the rule I'm going to part you with, and that is just don't try, or just don't go out of your way to, like, win. Succeed? Sure. Overcome the obstacles? Sure. Get to the end in a successful manner? Sure. But there is no winning in role-playing games. You being the loudest at the table or the one that killed the most goblins doesn't, at the end of the day, it means, as long as it was adding to everyone's fun and adventure, then sure, that's cool. But it didn't make you the winner. It doesn't make you the one that everybody's gonna be talking about because you killed 9 goblins instead of 6. What they're gonna remember is that awesome player who got into his character, who took risks, who jumped off the cliff and caught by his fingers. That's what they're going to remember, at least in a positive way. All right, so next week will be Gen Con. The Gen Con prep episode will probably be pretty short, but it's going to be me talking about basically where I'm going to be, where you can find me, and a couple of things that I plan to do while I am there. So please be safe. Start taking your vitamin C now if you're going to the show to help build up that immune system. Get boosted, get vaccinated, wear a mask if you have to. Wear a mask if you're asked to. Don't be a jerk. Don't lick doorknobs. And just generally, leave every room a little happier than when you got there. And I'll see you in a week. Play some games.